to the Razor Service Series. Today we'll be reviewing our hydraulic kit. This kit contains a volute, 3 bolts, first stage impeller, and for the ZOGP model, a second stage impeller. Now before we get started, let's review the tools you will need. A 3/16 inch Allen wrench, a small flathead screwdriver, a rubber mallet, a feeler gauge, and red Loctite number 263. First, we will remove the cutting mechanism. With the pump on its side, insert the screwdriver into a slot on the suction cover to stop the rotation. Now you can use the Allen wrench to remove the cutter bolt. If you cannot break away the cutter bolt, a torch may be required to crystallize the Loctite. But make sure to use caution when handling the heated components. Once the bolt is removed, the cutter and shims can then be removed. If you have a ZSGV or ZOGV, this step will not apply to you. However, with the ZOGP, you can now remove the suction cover by removing the 3 bolts with your Allen wrench. If the suction cover is stuck on the volute, gently tap it with a mallet. The rotation will allow the clearance, so you're able to wedge it off with the flathead screwdriver. Set aside the O-ring to be used when you reassemble the pump. If you are reusing the existing cutter assembly, set these components aside. For ZOGP models, you can simply slide the first impeller and impeller key off the shaft. Loosen and remove the 3 bolts securing the volute to the motor housing. For the ZSGV and ZOGV models, you will first remove the volute by taking off the same 3 bolts. Now, for all models, you will remove the impeller by sliding it off the shaft. And for the ZSGV and ZOGV models, this is where you will remove the impeller key. Install the impeller onto the shaft and secure it with the impeller key. For ZOGP models, identify the correct impeller by the additional step around the core, which holds the seal spring. To install the volute, place the O-ring around the seal plate. Ensure the discharge of the volute aligns with the aligned face of the motor cap. Align the volute and secure it with 3 bolts tightened to 79 inch per pound. Ensure the discharge of the volute aligns with the aligned face of the motor cap. For ZOGP models, align the first stage impeller with the key and slide it onto the shaft. Note that this impeller does not have the same step around the bore. To install the suction cover on the ZOGP models, place the O-ring on the back side of the suction cover. You will want to align the highlight point with the bolt closest to the pump discharge as shown. The suction cover can be placed back over the second stage impeller and use 3 bolts to fasten to the volute. Make sure to tighten all bolts to 79 inch per pound. Now, before we are ready to install the cutter, we must determine the appropriate number of shims to achieve proper clearance. Stack the shims on the back side of the cutter. Line up the channel of the new cutter with the keyway on the drive shaft and secure it with a cutter bolt. Please note that verifying the cutter clearance and shim stack may take multiple tries. Use a feeler gauge to check the space between the cutter and the cutter plate. A 1/100th inch gauge should not fit. If the space is too large, remove a shim and recheck.
If the cutter rubs, add a shim and recheck again.
After verifying the cutter clearance and shim stack, remove the cutter bolt, cutter, and shims, keeping them together. You now must apply Loctite to 3 points. Spread in the threads of the shaft, on the first 3 threads of the cutter bolt, and on the outer diameter of the cutter. Reinstall the cutter and shims on the shaft and secure the bolt, tightening to 79 inch per pound. Wrapping up, we've dived into the process of replacing the volute and impellers on a Barnes razor grinder with the hydraulic kit. Thanks for joining us in this video. Until next time, happy grinding!